Welcome to Chapter 10. This one is about sponsorship and investments. This is one that I don't think very many artists think about because people think that, you have to be a huge artist and you need to be sponsored by Budweiser or something like that. But it's something that I've explored through my podcasts and stuff like that. And even if you have a small audience, you can still offer value to people. And that's what it's all about when you enter into partnerships like this is don't just think, what can I get from this? Think about what is this person or company getting from this transaction, and make sure that it's a mutually beneficial thing. Because there's no point in just doing something where you benefit, because it's not going to last for very long. Anyway, what you need to do is you need to understand your demographics of who's listening to you, where they live, what their ages are, what their sort of psychographics are, and then put together a list of companies that would be interested in your fan base. Here's some numbers that would be good to include in proposals or include in conversations when you're talking to companies about how millennials view companies and their authenticity when they sponsor live events and stuff like that. Because it's a really good way for companies to come across as very authentic is by sponsoring bands or artists that fit a certain image. 93% of millennials have said that they like brands that sponsor live events. 89% perceive these brands as more authentic. 83% leave with a greater trust for said brand. 80% purchase the product after the event, as opposed to 55% among non-attendees of the event. And 80% recommend brands that sponsor live music. So include that in your conversations and make sure that you understand the power of co-signing a brand and how much value you can really offer, even if your audience isn't huge. How to get a sponsorship. So he has a detailed proposal to follow in the book, and I'm just going to go through sort of the process of the social aspect of how you should approach it. And I think this is really good. As I said, I've been doing similar stuff with my podcast, and even though I don't have a big brand or a big following, I've still gotten sponsors for my podcast. So don't attach a proposal to your initial email. You need to find a person or the person in marketing and get their phone number and give them a call. Just a quick call to introduce yourself and your idea and your brand. Send the proposal immediately afterwards. As soon as you hang up, boom, send the email. And follow up in 3 days if you haven't heard a reply. And I know that this whole following up idea is like a scary thing for a lot of people, and it's something that I've had to get used to as a business owner, following up with artists who have expressed interest in working with me. But don't be afraid to do this, because this person is in marketing, and they're very used to people following up several times. So don't be afraid of doing that, because that's literally, it's how the marketing industry works. So don't be afraid to follow up ever. And be realistic about your sponsors if you are a local band, you're probably not going to get a Budweiser or a Pepsi sponsorship, but you can approach local brands, you know, the local brewing company, local clothing companies, stuff like that can be a really beneficial thing. So don't feel like your platform is too small to ask for a sponsorship. He says it's very possible for mid-level bands or mid-level artists to obtain sponsors that can help cover expenses, and that can be so huge while you're trying to keep things going in the earlier stages and in the mid-level stages. He goes on to talk about how to get an investment, and this is something that I have no personal experience in. I've never seen someone get an investment, but he has a story about working. He's like playing for somebody as a hired musician for a singer-songwriter, and some guy came up to the singer-songwriter and said that he wanted to invest $100,000 into their artist career. Now, obviously that is like a very rare occurrence, but you never know who's listening, so keep that in mind, I guess. If that happens, it's pretty wild. And he has a bunch of ways to make the most out of your investment and also make sure you don't get screwed. Make sure that you get, if you're dealing with an investment of this sort, make sure that you get a lawyer, because things can get messy. So definitely have a lawyer. And he has a good idea to set it up so you don't have to start paying it back until you're making 30 grand a year per band member. There's other numbers in the book, but that's one that I think is really exemplary of just the way his mind works. Then you're really safe, you know, you can start paying it back slowly after you're making 30 grand, which is sort of enough to cover bare minimum expenses. And remember that if an investor does approach you like this, they're probably quite wealthy, and they're probably they know that it's a risky investment, but they want you to succeed, and they probably want to come along for the ride a little bit as well. So just remember that, and make sure that they get like free tickets and VIPs and stuff like that. If you do get this investment, make sure that you're not spending it on stupid stuff. Like, don't spend 15 grand on a music video or something like that with no marketing. Make sure that you're treating it like an investment in your career, and that you're making that money make more money. That should be a key if you're getting a cash injection like this, is try and figure out how you can make that money make more money, whether that's setting up a recording studio or something like that, or buying video equipment and learning how to use it. It's really important when you get things like that you're making the most of your opportunity, because if you do get that, it's a huge opportunity. So but like I said, I've never heard of anybody getting something like that, so don't count on it. But I hope that gives sort of an overview of how to approach sponsors. I think that's the most valuable part of this video. It's definitely possible to get a sponsor, and it doesn't even have to be specifically a financial sponsor. You know, there could be maybe a rental car company lends you a van for your tour. Stuff like that can be huge and just as good as a financial injection. So yeah, that's it. And thanks for listening, and I hope it's valuable as always, and take care.